welcome to another episode of Legion Elite Motorsports. I'm your host Isaiah, and today we're going to finish up the rest of the surprise build, and let's get to it. Okay, so first, before anything, before you lay any head down on any surface, you're going to want to clean the surface with rubbing alcohol or something of equal matter to basically lift up any fingerprints, hand dirt, ARP, lube juice, or anything that's on there. So you're going to want to do that for the block, and you're going to want to do that for the head. So also, when you do it, you cannot use a paper towel cloth. Best thing to use is most likely a microfiber towel or something like that. That would probably be the best bet. So we're gonna rub this down, let it air dry for a second, and we're gonna lay down that head. Okay, so now that that is nice and clean, we're gonna grab our head gasket like this because you don't want to touch any of these surfaces. And also, if you want to feel exactly what is on here, you could touch a little bit of the timing chain cover so you can get the idea of the type of adhesive they have on here. It's not necessarily sticky, but it's like a kind of a rubbery film that of course is going to melt away once you lay down the head gasket and add some heat, but it's going to be the initial bonding surface, which is extremely important. So when you lay this down, make sure you don't touch any of the surfaces. So grab inside of the bore ring here and lay it down gently. So we're going to do that, and you'll see exactly what it looks like. Okay, that gasket is laid down properly. And as you can see, the metal ring reaches the cylinder walls perfectly. Everything looks good. Everything's matching up. No issues there. You can see around the timing chain. All right. Everything looks good. So that's how she's supposed to lay down. And you can see here, this is an oil port. That one's a water port. So that's pretty awesome. So it's very important for this to go down perfectly with no catches or anything like that obstructing the head gasket. All right, so we are ready to lay the head on top of that. Let's get started. Okay, so what we're looking at is 1 millimeter oversized valves with new valve guides. And I'm going to tell you about the valve springs and all of that good stuff once we lay down the head. But she's all cleaned and ready to go. Let's lay her down. All right, so we're looking at an M28 head. And we have the beveled valve springs. These are supposed to be about 100 pound springs, which is plenty to rev up to about 8,000 RPM with these motors. And everything is looking good. It went down smooth. Excuse my little ones in the background. But yes, so we got ARP studs and nuts here, so everything is high quality. And of course, new valve stem seals, excuse me. And we are going to torque the head down and take it from there. Okay, so we are going to torque this head down, and unlike the factory bolts, these are ARPs. So the factory maximum foot-pounds was 72 foot-pounds, and these are 90. When you purchase ARP head bolts, it comes with a paper that tells you what the torque specification is. So we're going to tighten these down in sequence as of pretty much a sequence of 2 stages. I'm going to do 50 and then jump right to 90. Okay, that's on and tight. Torque down real good. Next, we are going to install the cam. So we have to kick loose all of these. Alrighty. Alright. Alright, so we're going to remove this. Right. And what we're going to do is we're going to install the cam and the rear seal. You cannot forget the rear seal. Depending on which cam you have, the seal is a little different from one cam that sticks out the back. It has a screw in the middle. So the seal is, open. And then the regular kind that stops right here, it's a closed seal. So those are the 2 options for that. And the cam we're going to be putting in is a 274 cam, which should work perfect for this application. And also is 274 equated out of not lift, but duration. Because if you go too high, which you really can't, it'll touch this bottom part. And I don't believe we would be able to cut into this without jumping into a water port or weakening the head overall. So these cams are all done by duration, not by lift. So let's get this prepared and we'll take it from there. So here's the cam used. Not a big deal. Can't feel anything. That's still good to go. So anyway, if you look at the lobes, they are not as long, but the duration you could see is long, which equates to 274. So that's that, and yeah. So in order to install this, you cannot just lay it down and cross your fingers, hope for the best. So what you have to do is add your lubricant to the cam, to the journals, lay it down, and then we can get the cam sprocket up and get this piece in. Alrighty, so let's get to it. Also, something else I forgot to mention. This head, including the crankshaft, was line bored. So basically, they put the top pieces on here. Then from the back, they have a honing device, and it hones the top and the bottom so they're even and straight. So that's been done to the crank, and it's been done to the head. So it's not necessarily the crank, but the area where the crank sits, the journal caps, those have been line bored, so everything is straight. Just spread this out. Alrighty, looks good, nice and sticky. All right. All right, and FYI, you can never have enough lubricant in here, especially for the first starts are always the harshest. So that's nice and lubed up. We can lay down the cam and get it done. All right, she is in position. Cam is up, right on there, and we have that lined up with the cam. So now, since that's done, we're going to take this pin, slide this in there, okay, so this is on and tight. Not necessarily necessary to put thread lock on the other end of this. I've never had an issue where these backed out. But to get this in, of course, you're going to need to hold the cam, and that's what this is for. So you can use, you know, pliers, vice grips, or, you know, something of the equivalent. Now, as you tighten, you're holding it like this. So this lobe is going to try to go this way because, of course, you have to tighten it to the right. So it'll hold it in place in this angle right here. So then, once you tighten this down, not crazy tight, I would say 36 foot-pounds. You could do it to that. And once that's done, now you would have to put in your rear seal, and you're going to lubricate every single lobe, because now you're putting this puppy on, and you want to make sure all of the tappets have a lubrication. So we're going to lay down some more lube across the whole cam assembly, get the seal in, and then we're going to lock it down. On the seal back here, you're going to want to lay down, you know, a light, thin coat of silicone. And actually, this is the first time we've used silicone in this whole build. But we're going to be using silicone for this area and this area for the valve cover gasket. You're going to want to put some silicone there. And that should be good. And we will be moving on to the next thing. As soon as I lay this down, let you guys see what that looks like, we'll take it from there. All right, so we have received our new cam seal there, but we are not going to lay that sucker in until we get some silicone, so we're waiting for that. And here, these are actually not the original bolts, as you can tell, but nonetheless, because it's bolting into this timing cover, you can't over torque it, otherwise you're going to strip it. Same deal with these. So when you are tightening all of these down, you want to do it in the same sequence as you would the head, so it sits down properly. Also, maximum foot-pounds on these and these are only 15 foot-pounds maximum. Okay, so the manual states from 11 to 15 foot-pounds. So I would find a happy medium and tighten it down from there. Okay, but since we are waiting for the silicone for that seal and everything, we're going to add on the intake and exhaust manifold. And once everything is put together, we're going to do the final piece, which is the pickup tube with the ARP bolts, and we're going to knock it out from there. So this is pretty simple. We're going to slide on some Indian head just around the water ports, just to make sure it doesn't leak or anything like that, because the manifold that we're going to be putting on is temporary. He's actually going to go multi-port in the future. And same deal here. This is a nice machined head, so it should sit flat. So we're going to start with the intake side and take it from there. All right, so just a little bit of Indian head there, because these two items are close enough to share elements, and we definitely don't want to do that. So just a little extra precaution right there. This head, M28, doesn't have the port here for water, and this is further enough from the cylinders not to worry about anything, so that's good. All right, so let's grab the manifold. And as we can see, this is another masterpiece here, and it just looks spectacular. And all right, so we're gonna knock on the screws here. We're not gonna be adding the upper part or anything like that, but this one has actually been ported to a higher millimeter. And you can see the EGR, which is this guy here, goes in here, and then it shares the EGR with this ring right here, but that's all been grounded out, or ported out rather, and eliminated. So that's awesome. And with that, we have a bigger diameter here. So that's awesome sauce. So anyway, we're gonna bolt this down, and we're going to move on to the exhaust side and bolt that down, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so that is on and tight with these ARP stud and bolt combo. So I know for sure that's not going anywhere. All right, so now we're gonna step over to the exhaust side, and we're going to be using this style of a gasket. And this is one of my personal favorites, reason being is because it's O-ringed per cylinder, so it's kind of like a crush setup. You see it's layered, and this definitely outperforms that. There's like a 3-layer metal gasket. Yeah, that one leaks worse than anything I've ever used. So this is definitely number one. You can get this at AutoZone, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, so we're gonna slide this on. And it has a little heat shield kind of built into it. All right, goes in just like that. We don't need anything to seal it. That is going to work perfectly. Okay, and this is the manifold we're going to be running. This is definitely a vast improvement over factory. You get the factory location with the turbo, and also you get the EGT port at the bottom. So yes, we're going to be sliding this one in. Alrighty, just like so. All right, so everything is on and tight there, and over here everything's looking good. This is the break-in setup, because there's going to be a different exhaust manifold and intake manifold going on this soon. So anyway, we're going to move on to the rim main seal. And we're going to be adjusting the lash after the upper assembly is put on there, the rocker assembly. And we're going to adjust the lash, and then last but not least, to finish this project, we're going to modify the pickup tube, and that's all she wrote. Okay, so basically, we have to modify the tube. So I've already taken the liberty of boring out the holes so they're bigger and they fit over the ARP bolts. And this is our donor tube. It just so happens to be bent. So we're gonna just chop the legs off of this to add to this one. And we're gonna cut this one in half, here and there, and we're gonna add to it. Okay, so as you can see, this one is cut, and next we are going to cut this one and we'll be good. Okay, this one is cut. We got our front, we have our rear, we have our extra bar. What we're gonna do is we're going to pop the tube on there, and as soon as you make this straight, like flat even with the surface, it'll show you exactly how much needs to be removed on the, or excuse me, added on this side. So we're going to line this up and see what we got. Okay, so we got the tube in, and I'm gonna take these two off and mock up everything with a marker, and we will definitely take it from there. So, how you know you have the tube in there, right? Is first you want to find that center point, so it's not hanging this way or this way. You got it right there in the middle, just like that. And then of course you can turn it this way or this way, but we're gonna have it just like that. Get everything prepped and ready and mark it up. Okay, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this to fill in both of those, and it'll be perfect and ready to go. So I'm definitely gonna need 2 hands for this, and I'm gonna tack it into place on both sides. Okay, and there she is in place. Welds don't look too pretty as of right now, but that's just tacked into place to make sure that everything is being held in the right position. And this is going to get TIG welded and finalized, so that's going to get cleaned up really nice. But that is pretty much how you do it. So the pickup tube operation is complete, and I'm not going to put the pan on because they're going to finalize the pickup tube with TIG weld, and it will be brought from there. But that is how you do that. Next, we're going to adjust the lash. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to do the valve, or excuse me, lash adjustment for the intake, which is going to be 8 thousandths, and then on exhaust is going to be 10 thousandths. So with 2 hands, I'm not actually going to adjust it while holding the camera, but take your 12, crack them all loose, flathead, and make sure that your lobe is down so you're not adjusting on a push spring. That's not a good idea. So then you take your 10 thousandths, see if you can fit it through there. And as you're fitting it through there, remember it's already loose, and you tighten it without pushing down on it. All right, it's still fitting through. A little bit more. All right, starting to get tight, so let's back it up. All right about there. And that's a good amount right there, so that's perfect. So at this point, what you're gonna do is hold this still. Make sure it doesn't move. All right. And you're gonna tighten it down. Perfect. we're gonna check it to make sure everything is still the same and we don't have to redo it. And you're gonna do this for the remainder of the valves. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yep, doesn't move at all. All right, so that's perfect. So exhaust is 10 thousandths, intake 8 thousandths, and that does vary depending on what cam you're running, but this is like a good rule of thumb. So I'm gonna do that for this, and this motor is complete. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found it useful. If there's any tips in there, by all means use it. Definitely keep these motors alive and running well and healthy. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.